Hello, my name is Brian John and I'm the author of the Angel Mountain Saga of 8 volumes. I want to say a little bit today about the book which is called Dark Angel. It's the 3rd volume in the series. This is the cover of the book. And it's a story which is set, like all of the others, in the late 1700s, early 1800s, in the what we might loosely call the Regency period. And this one is a particularly dark and dramatic tale, the 3rd one in the series, with romance at its heart, but with a very, very dark feeling to it as well. It's a very different world that I'm portraying in this story from the world of Jane Austen. If any of her characters had been living in the wild west of Wales at this time, they wouldn't have survived for 5 minutes. It was really the equivalent of the Wild West, I suppose, in the late 1700s, early 1800s. Now, Martha Morgan, a young widow whose husband has been murdered, has finally found love again. The new love of her life is the son of a local squire. His name is Owain Laugharne. She agrees to marry Owain, and all of the members of the family, of course, are delighted. But just as she starts to believe that she can have a quiet, calm life again, Martha is terrified by a ghostly apparition, which the servants see as well, and they start to call this apparition the Night Walker. Is it a ghost? Is it the devil? Is it a human being in disguise who is very, very clever at simply flitting about without ever being tracked down? Someone who's intent on stalking Martha, who may intend to do some harm to her? We just don't know. Is it the Grim Reaper? We shouldn't be too surprised by these thoughts because, of course, in the period in which the novel is set, people had very different sets of beliefs from those of today. Now, further troubles also await Martha. An orphan is abandoned on the front doorstep, a foundling. She has to take this child in. A ship is wrecked on the rocky shoreline, not very far away, and one of the local squires also starts to intimidate and undermine Martha in the local community. She has to cope with all of these problems. They're really crises, as best she can, without a man by her side, and simply with the help of her family and friends, to whom she refers as her angels. Finally, in the last terrible twist to all of these misfortunes, Owain, who is really her anchor, goes out to sea on a fishing trip and disappears without trace. So for the first time since becoming mistress of this little estate, Martha is in serious trouble, and the estate is in serious trouble. And it's up to her to lead the family and the little community for which she has responsibility out of these dark times, even though the journey that she's about to embark upon will test her resourcefulness and her initiative right to the very limits. Now, there's a gap in the story at this point of 10 years, after which Martha has finally given up on Owain. She has to accept that Owain is dead. And she agrees to marry a kind admirer who's been secretly in love with her for many years. And on the night before the wedding, certain things happen which I had best not reveal. Now, for many female readers, this is the favourite book of the saga. Maybe that's because it's really about motherhood and the need for security and for love and warmth. But there's a lot of disturbing material in the story dealing with depression, paranoia, and violence, among other things. But Martha is, as we know from the other stories in the saga, ultimately a survivor. And this book, like all of the others, takes a rather optimistic and positive view of the human condition. Just a final word about something I'm asked about very often, and that is, why have I presumed as a man to speak in the voice of a young woman from another age? All of the stories, including this one, are told in the first person in the form of diary entries, which Martha records every day when something interesting happens in her life. Now, that was a very risky thing to do, but I had to do it since that's the way that the story came to me. So I swallowed hard and had to get on with writing the book in this particular way, for better or for worse. Luckily, I seem to have got away with it, and many female readers have complimented me on the accuracy and the sensitivity with which I've managed to portray female moods and instincts. put it down to accurate observation of women over a long period of time, maybe, with a lot of help from my wife. I hope you'll wish to read the book, and if you do, I know that you'll enjoy it.